Imagine we had a bunch of people pitching their money together to pay for a cake, but everyone has restrictions on what the money can be used for. Mine can buy the eggs, mine can pay for butter, but only if someone else matches the same amount for butter. But no one pays for electricity. And this is a quote I'm drawing from Voulet, who's been very vocal in this non-profit space, especially on funding. Truth is, government funding is tied to foreign policy and politics of the time. And over reliance on these grants can land non-profits in big trouble when priorities shift. We are seeing this with the current shift in the US aid development policy. We are not just missing ingredients, we are being challenged to rethink the whole cake. Now is the time for nonprofits, funders, and communities to co create a new recipe, one that survives the waves of unpredictable funding. I have a small story. School feeding programs have been used as a school attendance incentive since the 80s in areas facing food insecurity. I've personally attended school where the only meal available was 8 maize, and I can tell you for sure most of us came to school because that food was easing the feeding burden at home. Now, African governments are finding themselves in hot soup. The funding gap is exposing areas that were almost entirely outsourced to aid. This withdrawal is a threat to the stability of some regions, even countries, not just because of hunger, but school abandonment, insecurity, and a string of human rights violations, especially meted against children. You've heard of children being married off due to famines or people fighting over watering holes and rangelands turning into battlefields. It has played a huge role in silencing those gun barrels for some time now. Better rangeland management is equals to more grass available, which is better fed cows, which is better market prices, which is more financial muscle, which is better education for their children. And this leads to less insecurity and communities can feed themselves better. Communities often don't know where NGO money comes from. Some implementing from frontline organizations often don't know too. Funding to them comes from the organizations that they interact with, the subgranting organizations. And those organizations are now running on reserves. And it is the same across the African continent. Most people just resort to mop the floor instead of fixing the roof. This is the world of restricted funding. For example, service disruptions in sexual and reproductive health programs have indirectly affected other child protection efforts. For example, if some organizations ending FGM have lost it all and some organizations working to end child marriage still have some reserves, those with reserves will carry a bigger burden if more girls are cut in readiness for marriage. But their hands are tied. They can do little on FGM. It's restricted funding. It's no doubt that something is happening in the non-profit world. Just like during COVID, the rules are changing. Some funders are rethinking their funding models. Networks are accommodating more sectors. Some groups are doing more with less, and activists are speaking out even louder. And it is not easy for frontline organizations now. First, you have to convince the community that you're not eating their money. Then you have to convince your members of staff that better times are coming. Then you have to speak to your local partners about downscaling your contribution. And then you offer sacrifices to the heavens of your donors to release something. But either way, most donors don't have much to give during this shakeup. Boardroom chaos is ricocheting across the sector. Reserves are running low, and they are running low really fast. Some of them are forced to stop or take product programming slow. Requests to convert project support to general operating support are with us. Directors and officers are reviewing their insurance policies to protect themselves. Diversification of funding sources becomes more than a buzzword. WhatsApp groups shriek like cicadas in silence. Emails go unanswered, and Zoom calls have turned into motivational halls. While some are stuck and others are starting afresh, the movement definitely has an opportunity to start afresh. And as non-profits struggle to survive, the communities that we are serving are asking, where did you guys go? Why did you leave us in the time of need? Because everywhere they go, the answer is the same. The feeding program, there is no money. Youth fund, no money. ARV program, no money. But you might wonder, how can one major funder just pull out and suddenly all this is happening? Let me tell you. Some programs in our countries are almost entirely dependent on aid. And this aid is so important that the donors find themselves completely, I'd say, replacing government. You should see the video of Kenya's former president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, that has been going around lately. And he's been reiterating his message and saying it over and over again that no one is coming to save Kenyans, especially. But this applies to us as well. It's the reality. And it's not just for Kenyans, but it's also for the non-profit sector. Heads of states are scrambling to raise alternative funding, but the alternative model, say China, operates on different policies like loans and infrastructure. So for the gap that has been left, who's going to fill it? National governments? Maybe in the cities where public outcry will soon be seen on TV. Those in the villages will soon be facing what they've been facing, like a decade ago. They'll be on their own. European countries, they've already said that the burden will be just too heavy for them to carry alone. We have to restructure and find ways to work with the small resources that we have and fill the gaps, but also most importantly, fix the leaks. Are we ready to pool resources to provide all ingredients? I encourage us to find alternative sources of funding. For instance, according to Good United, 69% of all charitable giving in the US came from individuals, while foundation and government grants combined accounted for a much smaller slice. In other words, everyday people, your supporters, these are the people who are driving philanthropy. It's not necessarily big institutions. Shall we try that front? That's a question I pose to you. It's time to fund long term. I just read an article from Bill Gates, and he says, we are closer than ever to eradicating malaria for good. By continuing to fund life-saving tools, we will get there. But if the world backs down now, the gains we've made will disappear fast. And this applies to all of us. Maybe it's time to borrow from COVID times, where the impossibilities of approving grants fast became inevitable. We know that small organizations spend more efficiently and get work done faster. How can we streamline our funding approval processes to accommodate these small organizations? How can we respond to emergencies better during these certain times? How can we listen more? How can we listen better so that we can have grant calls that are written, tailored on frontline needs? Can we build sustainable frontline organization? Is it possible to normalize larger and longer program grants? Is it time to reduce paperwork and leverage on things like AI plus trust to make things easier for everyone? There are a couple of things that COVID taught us. Taught us that flexibility works, but we are gravitating back to the old ways. Maybe we should have less strict budgets. Maybe we need to cultivate more personal relationships. Maybe we should welcome more grantees to contribute in the fund or funding design. Maybe we should reflect on our silent power and switch who is in that decision-making panel. This is a call to both funders and frontline campaigners. Let's embrace flexibility. Let's embrace diversification. Let's embrace technology. Let's embrace reserves and transparency. Most importantly, if the old models are breaking, let's not patch them. Let's try to rebuild differently. Let's move from charity to solidarity, from project-based control to relationship-based partnerships, because when funding flows with faith, the frontline moves with fire. And as we build movements, as we resuscitate partnerships and fund the frontline, let's try build together. And remember, top-down problems can be solved and have to be solved from top down. So it's time to act now. This is the Kipcast. My name is Jeremiah Kipainoi. I've attached some links down here in case you'd like to delve into this a little bit more, plus the 2 videos that I mentioned here. Thank you very much. This is a weekly rant, and I'll see you in the next one.